Hello all, and welcome to Crafts for a Cause How to Knit. I'm Maggie and I work at the main library for the Kansas City, Kansas Public Libraries. Today we will be learning how to knit for our Crafts for a Cause program. We will learn a specific knitting pattern to donate to Warm Up America. They will then take our squares that we made and create blankets for people who need them in the winter. With this program, you can either pick up a kit at Southwest or our main branch, or gather your own supplies. First, let's talk supplies. Your kits will include a yarn and needles. You will need 45 to 50 yards of worsted yarn, also known as size 4 or medium weight yarn. You'll also need size 7 needles, at least 7 inches long, a pair of scissors, and optionally a ruler. If you don't have a ruler, you can use our needles if you know how long it is, or find a digital ruler online. I like to turn my yarn into a ball because it makes it easier for me to keep it from knotting around itself, but that is optional. Now we are ready to start the project or cast on. To cast on, just find the end of your yarn and measure to 49 inches. Now here I'm going to use my ruler to estimate about 49 inches plus a little extra, but you can also use needles or online ruler. Anything you know how long it is can help you measure. Once you have that, you're going to keep a hold of where that 49 inches was, but do not cut it. Now you're going to make a slip knot right there. So you're going to take the part you're pinching and twist it so you have kind of a loop. One part's over the other. Then you're going to take the part that is attached to the ball of yarn and you're going to push it in between through that loop and pull down or up. Now you have a slip knot. It's that simple. It is time for our needles. You only need one at this point in time. You'll slip that needle into the loop and tighten up. And we're getting ready to cast on. Hold that needle in your right hand along with the tail end, the part that's not attached to the ball, in your right hand, and then you're going to hold the yarn part in your left hand. Make sure they're on either side. Now you're going to take your left hand, you're going to put it under where that yarn is like this, and then you're going to wrap your fingers around the yarn. Next, you're going to take your thumb and put it up right next to that string, just right next to it, and wrap your thumb around that string, poke your needle through, and hold it there. Now you're going to take your right hand with the tail end again, and you're going to wrap that around the needle, hold it, and then using your thumb, lift that loop up and over, and then pull tight, and now you have 2 stitches on your needle. I'm going to show you here again so you can get a closer look. Wrap your thumb around that yarn, stick the needle through, and with the tail end, wrap it around the needle and loop it over. Now it's really important here to think about spacing. You need 5 stitches to equal 1 inch. 5 stitches equals 1 inch, and we need a total of 7 inches. So while you're stitching, make sure your stitches are evenly spaced and you are ready to do that. Once you get 5 stitches, you can measure it with your ruler or look at your needle. This needle is 7 inches, so I need my 35 stitches to take up all 7 inches of that needle. Now I have my 5 stitches. I just need to check and see if they are an inch. So I am going to grab my ruler, hold it up and see if it's an inch. It's not quite an inch, so I will take off whatever stitches it is. It's really easy. Just slip it over the top and pull on that yarn and it will come unraveled. The best part of knitting is it's easy to fix your mistakes. Now I'm going to keep these last 2 on because I think they're pretty well spaced out. And re-stitch those. And then measure again, and you can keep going. And you're just going to make sure to measure whenever possible to make sure you're keeping up that equal stitching, and you're going to make those 35 stitches equal 7 inches. Here I am measuring for one last time to make sure that this fits and works. And it's about 7 inches, so we are good to go and start knitting. For this project, we are only going to learn one stitch, the knit stitch. If you continue to knit, you will find that there is also a stitch called the purl stitch, which you can learn using a library resource if you choose. This pattern or project only needs the knit stitch. To start, you're just going to make sure that all those stitches are on there and fully spaced. You're going to pick up your second needle and it's time to get knitting. Make sure that the needle full of stitches is in your left hand, the empty needle is in your right hand. We're going to put that tail end away. We don't need that anymore. I like to put it all the way over to my left side and move the yarn ball to my right side. That way I know which I need to use because you'll be holding on to that with your right hand. Alright, let's get started with our first stitch. You're going to take your right needle, stick it through that first loop underneath the left needle. Just like that, you're going to pinch and hold with your left hand and grab that string with your right hand. Wrap it around that right needle underneath and then in between the two. And then you're going to pull your right needle out of the 2 loops, holding on to that string. Hopefully you can see it here. See that new loop on that right needle and then pull the old loop off the left needle. I'm going to show you that one more time. Just because it's a little hard to see, you want to make sure to keep those loops tight on there. You're going to stick your right needle through that loop underneath the left needle. Wrap that string under and through the right needle. Remember, it's your yarn ball, and then you're going to push that new loop through the old loop just like that. I'll show you one more time. Push that old loop so we can get that new loop, and pull it off, and then you'll just keep going until you get all the way down to the end of the row. y'all, I am coming up on the end of my first row. So all that means is I have moved all of those stitches from my left hand to my right hand and added a row to those stitches. Here is my last stitch on that row. Just stitch that last stitch like you normally would, and everything's on that right needle. See? Completely set down that left needle. Now you can move the full needle with all the stitches into your left hand. You're just going to move it over to your left hand and pick up the empty needle with your right hand. Make sure to keep that yarn that's attached to the yarn ball at the top, and then just start knitting again. And sometimes, mistakes happen, and just there, I don't know if you saw it, but I accidentally skipped a stitch, and that could cause a problem. So all you need to do is take those loops off your needle. If it's just a little bit, you don't need to take it all the way off, but it had gone down to the bottom, so I gotta get it down to the bottom. And then the full row, you will just stick a needle in those loops and you can start over again. So here I am just getting those back on the needle. And once you have those all back on the needle, you can just start knitting like you were. Just since you're knitting all the way down the row, you don't have to worry about much else. And you are going to try to get about 54 rows or 9 inches. Mine tend to be a little bit more than 54 rows, but you want those 9 inches. Once you have about 50 to 60 rows, or it's about 9 inches long, you're ready to cast off or complete the pattern. Here I am finishing my last row. So you're just gonna knit the last row like normal. I'm finishing those last 2 stitches here. And then you are ready to cast off. So to start the cast off, you just start out like you normally would, knit 2 stitches. Just 2 stitches, so there's 1, there's 2. And then you're going to take your left hand needle, poke it through that loop that's closest to you, bring it up and over the loop that's farthest away or closest to the point of the needle, and off that needle. So now you should only have 1 loop on there. Then you're going to knit another stitch. Again, poke that left hand needle up, through that back needle, up and over, and you should only have 1 stitch on that needle. Then you'll just continue down the line. And you'll keep going until you have one stitch left on your needle. One stitch on that right needle. Here's my last cast off stitch. So your project looks complete except for that one stitch. You're going to take that part that's attached to your yarn ball and you're going to make about a 5-inch tail. It's not as important that you measure this part out, just give yourself enough room to work with it. Once you have that cut off, you're going to pick that right hand needle back up. You're going to wrap that tail around your needle. It doesn't really matter what way, you just want it around there once. You're going to do like you would normally casting off. You're going to loop through that last stitch and pull it up, over, and out. And then you're going to pull that tail all the way through and kind of tighten it a little bit. And there you go, you've completely cast it off. Now the only thing left is to tuck in those ends. I'm going to show you one way to do it here, but you can also bring it into us and we can do it for you, or you can also get a tapestry needle for yourself and sew that in between the yarn threads. Just let us know what you need to do and then you will have a complete square. Here I am just kind of weaving it in. You want to make sure to try to go with the pattern as much as possible. And with a yarn like this, you will also need to make sure you only put the red parts in the red parts, or the yellow parts in the yellow parts. That way it runs better. Alright y'all, thank you so much for joining us, and remember you can bring these into the Maine, South, or West locations to donate them for Warm Up for America and get 1 hour service hours. Thank you, bye bye!